What's going on? It's the Rap Nerd, and I'm here today to talk about Lupe and the things that he's been saying this week. First it started with Kendrick last week with a guy named Quality, I think, and now he recently did a podcast with Justin Hunt and his crew. And in that podcast, to clear up what he said earlier, he said that Nas ain't got bars like that, and he would not be ranked highly amongst the lyricists. Now, I honestly wasn't going to say anything about it because, to me, watching that podcast, Lupe made his point clear, and I think it's concise, and I understand where he's coming from, and in some points I even agree. But when I go to social media, I see it's taken out of context because you know what clip culture does. It'll take one specific part of an interview and just post that, and it doesn't post anything else. So Lupe has really been looking crazy, and people have been trying to call him out for it. And I'm not here to convince anybody like, yo, you should think what he thinks or believe what he thinks, or say he's right or wrong. Either way, I'm just here to present perspective, and I'm also here to applaud Lupe for talking about this specific thing, because I feel like at the end of the day, it just makes hip-hop that much better because it expands the variety of MCs there are in this game, and I love that, honestly, because I think when we talk about lyricists, it should be split up in a similar way to other subgenres of hip-hop. We have gangster rap, and under gangster rap you have New York rap, you have trap, you have West Coast rap, and all these different things under the umbrella of gangster. So I feel like with lyrical, there should also be things in subcategories of what lyricism is, because there are different types of lyricism. So let's talk about what Lupe is saying, right? First of all, he was saying that in a list of rappers, right, technical, skillful rapping, first he said Kendrick has like 100 people that he can name that is a better rapper. And when he first said that, I was like, oh, Lupe, I don't know about 100, but then I heard what he said in the Quality joint, and he was like, I can start naming them right now. We're talking about rapping. Take the beat away, take the music away. If we just cipher, I can name 100 people who can rap better. And then he said Rosenberg Raw. And when he said that, I was like, oh, okay. I see what he means now. And Rosenberg Raw is a battle rapper, for those who don't know, and he's hella nice at that as well. So when you start to bring in rappers of that caliber, and I think Rosenberg Raw is not even like one of the top dudes. I do think he's good, but when you bring in battle rappers into the equation of like great rapping, if he's adding them and other MCs that just do flat out rapping and that's it, he's got a point. And you probably could name 100 rappers who do rap better than Kendrick just from a flat out bar, punchline, metaphors, multisyllabics, all of that type of technical skill than Kendrick. Now, I think him saying these things is very brash, and I think that it's rubbing people the wrong way, and I think if he would have worded it differently and not been so aggressive with it, and on top of that, this has been something that Lupe has said before about Kendrick, saying that he thinks Drake is a better rapper, and again, that's brash to people who don't really understand what he's talking about, so they're going to label him a hater, and I don't really think that, because Lupe has gone on record to even say that Kendrick has been way more successful than him. I think even when he talked to Quality, he said Kendrick is a lot more successful as a rapper than I ever was, and I applaud him for that. But when we talk about skill and just being able to go, he's not high on the list. So when he gets on the podcast, they ask him the question about that too, like what does he count as far as lyricism? And he says, when we talk about straight raps, he says, again, double down, I'm talking about taking away the beat, and you just in a cipher, acapella rapping. That's what I'm talking about, pen to pad. And the way I look at that is technical skill, right? And my version of what he's saying is like, if you were to put a rapper's verse on paper and you read it, you could see the complexity in it just from reading it, because it's doing the things that he says. Like, it has punchlines, it has metaphors, it has similes. He didn't mention it, but multisyllabics, which is, multiple syllables rhyming at the end of the sentences, and rhyme schemes. All of these things make a technically skilled rapper. And then he goes on to say, if we're talking about that kind of rap where people just go, Nas wouldn't be high on that list. But in the clip, he said, neither would I. And that's the part nobody's including. He put himself in the same bucket. Like, if we're talking about people who just go and all they do are the metaphors, punchlines, blah, 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 he said himself he's not high on that list, because he knows of a bunch of MCs that's all that they do. And the example he gave was Chino XL. Now, if you don't know who that is, definitely do a quick YouTube search and listen to him rap. And when you hear him rhyme and you understand what he means, you're like, oh, okay. He literally means folks who just go bar for bar, rap for rap. And a good example of that to me is when the Slaughterhouse was a group. They didn't care nothing about just rapping their asses off and doing the illest entendres, metaphors, punchlines. Like, them cats, that was them going because they were a group, right? So when you put it in context like that, he said that's why he says that. And he also goes on to say that he's not shitting on Nas, and he backs it up and was like, yo, let me clarify some more because people are going to take that quote and go crazy, which they did. He was like, what makes Nas great is balance, because he was like, being a full MC, it's all about balance. You got to be able to do those things with lyricism, right? But you got to find your strengths, your tone, your voice, your context. He said all of these things matter when it comes to just being an overall MC. So he's not diminishing Nas for being one of the GOATs, but he's just saying, as a rapper who just goes, he ain't like that. And then he also mentioned that rappers who do just go and all they worry about are metaphors, punchlines, multis, they limit themselves because when you focus on that, you're going to take away from other places, which makes you not as mainstream, which makes you not as catchy, which makes people not feel you as much. So it is a really full conversation that he's having about lyricism, which I love. And I don't think the definition of lyricism is wrong or right depending on who you talk to. I think it's all about what you feel and what your perspective is. Personally, for me, the things that he's talking about do make a lyricist, but there also has to be other stuff. There has to be individuality. There has to be tone. There has to be some entertainment with how you rap. There has to be the content of what you speak about. Like, those things make it up to me, because there are a bunch of dudes who I think are rapidy rap guys. You know, for me personally, I think Griselda and, 38 Special, all of them can rap their asses off, but I can't lie. Their content is so one note that it just kind of bores me, and I'm no longer like that anymore. I mean, growing up, I used to just care about the bar shit too, and that's why I understand where Lupe is coming from, because I grew up in an era where rapping like that, if you were a rapper, was mandatory. You had to do all of those things to be even considered good as a rapper. But then when the blog era came, those things kind of changed, and the technicality of your skill set was no longer necessary. Not to say that nobody ever did it, because again, we got the big three from that era and other MCs, but when you think about the mainstream rappers of today, there aren't many who care about bars like that. Excuse me, that's my son in there. He is having a good time right now with the glow that we just got him. But with the game changing, I see why a lot of people hear him say that about Kendrick and they get offensive, because Kendrick is one of the guys, and even to that point, I think Kendrick is such a great MC because that's not his focus. His focus is on everything. His focus is on knowledge and experience and how to make you feel. And I had to grasp that myself going into the newer era, that it's not all about just rapping well. People want to be moved, and a lot of times people wanting to be moved emotionally, not even a lot of times, most of the time, the majority of people who listen to rap are like that. They want to feel and be moved emotionally over the rapidy rap kind of guys, which is why there aren't that many, period. But all in all, I love the conversation that it's opening, because I've been doing this for years. Whenever I talk to somebody about like the best rappers or who I think are my favorite MCs, I always tell them, we got to clarify. Are we talking about the best rapper overall? Or are we talking about the best like rappers who can just go pen to pad spitting? Which one are we talking about? Because for me, that's two different lists. If you ask me the best, it's going to be this group. If you ask me who's the most lyrical with bars and all that, it's a whole different group. And then sometimes each list has some of the same people on it, but there is a huge difference when we talk about rap. And I think that it's beautiful that you have to clarify, because rappers paint with so many different brushes. They all shouldn't be classified as the same thing. So that's all I really wanted to say and put my 2 cents in about that whole conversation, because I love talking about rap and the skill set of it, because I think that it takes a high level of mind manipulation to be able to write raps at such a high level that we've seen from somebody like Lupe, most recently J. Cole, Kendrick, Andre 3K, Jay, all of these lyrical MCs who are lyrical within their own right. I think it all counts, but it's just a matter of like what you prefer. But still, I love being able to explore the different styles of lyricism and what it means to different people. So like I said, comment below. Let me know what you think about the whole Lupe conversation and what's your perspective on it. And personally, like I said, I don't think he's crazy for saying it. I actually understand him 100% because based on his criteria, he's not wrong. And he even mentioned that the people he knows that rap, they kind of see it the same way. And I would agree. I think a lot of rappers who really rap, they look at it the same way that he does. They may not say it, but they definitely do. Cameron spoke on it on his show when he was talking about, at the bare minimum, you got to do compound rhyming to be considered nice of any sort. So people have made those same sentiments. So this is not like a wild take at all, especially knowing the class that Lupe comes from. Hell, Mickey Fax is in the video and he kind of corroborates the same type of thing. So again, it's all perspective. And I would advise everyone to listen to the whole interview. Of course, not the whole 6 hours, but if you just listen to like the first 30 minutes, a lot of context is added to what Lupe is saying. And again, I just love that it opens up hip hop even more. So like I said, let me know in the comments what you thought. Try and keep it respectful. I didn't disrespect anybody, so don't disrespect me and anyone else, you know what I mean? Let's keep the discussion clean. And of course, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you so much. And until next time, peace.
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.